Hi there. Wait. I know you have lots of cool things on your Facebook feed, but we've got something very special for you today. We're going to try crowdsourcing your ideas on climate change live. Ahead of tomorrow's climate summit in Paris, we'd like to get the best ideas of young Europeans on climate actions. So we invited a group of young, engaged citizens to our studio to present their ideas live to Vice President Maroš Šefčovič. They have some thoughts on how Europe can engage young Europeans in fighting climate change. Where will they get their ideas from? They have their own. But they've also been asking their online communities to make suggestions over the past few days. But it's not too late. I invite you to add your suggestions in the comments so that they can monitor and present the ideas they like best. Even if you don't have an idea to send, you can still help us by sharing this video so that your friends and families can also take part and reach more people. Of course, feel free to show us what you think about our discussion by sending a reaction or liking the comments that you agree with. Vice President Šefčovič, welcome to your studio.
Thank you very much.
Quite a setup we have here.
Absolutely. Next time you should moderate MTV show.
I have a fantasy of a Eurovision, but let's see. Vice President, for you, the timing is very interesting today because tonight, if I'm not mistaken, you're already going to the One Planet Summit of President Macron in Paris. So I would like to ask you first, everybody's talking about this summit. Why is it so important? And before you answer me, how is this going to serve you in what you're doing? And how are you planning to bring this on board, please?
No, I really have a great proposition to make to our young people who came to see us and talk to us, which I very much appreciated, because tomorrow I have to present to the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who is organizing the summit, but also to the global leaders from the political but also business circles, what we as Europeans want to do, how we want to achieve our goals to which all we sign up in the Paris Agreement. And of course, I would like to be your kind of my temporary speechwriter. So if you have any great ideas, any suggestions to make, so I promise you that I will use them tomorrow. And I will include them in my introductory remarks and in all the encounters we will have tomorrow with the political and business leaders, but also with the investors, because tomorrow I believe we should move from the huge mobilization which we achieved in Paris 2 years ago, when we agreed on this global agreement how to tackle climate change, to make it very practical. What to do in Africa, how to accelerate this energy and economic transformation in Europe. How can we help our cities to become smarter, and many other concrete ideas, how to bring more investments to serve the sustainable goals which our planet needs so much. So looking forward to your ideas, and I promise I'll use them tomorrow.
Excellent. And right before we turn to your suggestions, I'd like to bring on board one more very important person. Commissioner Tibor Navracsics is in charge of education, culture, youth, and sports. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us in the studio today, but I spoke to him earlier and asked him one question. Commissioner, why is it important for you to hear young people's ideas on tackling climate change and the role that they can play in this? What can their views bring to your work?
I know that many young people feel strongly about fighting climate change and are keen to get involved. And as your commissioner, I want to help ensure you get the opportunities to play an active role in this. We have means to do so at EU level. For example, the Erasmus Plus program and the European Solidarity Corps offer young people the chance to be part of projects dealing with climate change or to support communities affected by it. For me, this is important in two ways. In its own right, of course, but also as part of my work to enable young people to become engaged members of our societies. Of course, the EU and member states can do more and better at supporting young people in helping to preserve the planet. And who better to tell us how to go about this than you? Take this chance.
So you heard the commissioner, take your chance. You heard the vice president who would like to take your ideas. But let me ask you before, how many of you feel that you would like to do more at your personal level, not professional, but personally you think you could do more in climate action than you're doing now? Raise your hand if you would like to do more. And if you're watching us, maybe give us a like if you'd like to do more. If you think you're doing enough, you can give me a sad face. Okay? How many here? I have about a third, no, half, majority. By the end, I think I have everyone who wants to do more. Okay, so how can we do more? How can young people do more themselves? Not just ask their politicians, but themselves. I understand you all have ideas. Who is brave enough to go first? Okay, you were brave enough to raise your hand first.
And my pen is ready. Look, I'm going to write it down. So
What's your name?
Listen to you.
My name is Wassim Essaban.
Where are you from?
I live in Brussels.
Oh, we found one Belgian.
So first of all, Mr. Vice President, thank you for this amazing opportunity. So I've talked with a few friends and family. I've come up with three solutions, three opportunities. That
And your first name is, can you?
Wassim. It's a quite a hard
Wassim.
name, so
Wassim. Okay.
it means elegant in Arabic. So,
Ah.
so my first solution I come up with is is in order to enhance political engagement regarding climate change within the younger generation, we should introduce compulsory courses in high school as well as in undergraduate degrees. With every undergraduate degrees, in my opinion, introducing 3 to 6 course credits. I believe that's the best way to enhance political engagement for the young generation and to prepare a future generation that will be that will know everything about climate change, its challenges, its opportunities, and its solutions. I also believe that in Europe we have a lack of entrepreneurship. I am aware that the European Union is boosting this problem because it is one nowadays, and it offers a lot of opportunities to scale up startups. But what I want to propose you is basically a platform where entrepreneurs and startups come together with investors, business angels, and etc. But these startups can only be introduced to the platform if they have sustainable and ecological impact. Because such startups already exist. For example, Bound for Blue is a startup which introduced cargo vessels with a small amount of gas emissions and way less consumption of oil. So I believe that such measures can be taken into consideration for the future generations, and that we can make a sustainable impact and ecological impact in the future with these measures.
Thank you, Wassim. I'm going to give you a reaction of a like already on my screen before the Vice President answers you.
No, thank you very much. And I very much appreciate that here we really have very similar ideas because few years ago, I was for a few months when I joined the Commission also responsible for education and youth, and it was exactly the feeling I had. And unfortunately, a lot of misunderstandings we have in Europe is that we do not know how the decisions are taken, what are the processes, what is the role of the institutions, and how, in fact, the EU, it's us, it's not them. It's us, because we have our representatives as a member state in the parliament, in the council. The commission here is for the citizens of Europe and for our member states. And not always it's understood because we are very much consensus-driven organization, so until we adopt the decision, it takes the time. So therefore, I agree with you, and I think we have to talk with our educational ministers how to introduce such a basic course in the EU, because I think that the engineers should know who is actually approving the norms for the new cars, or the doctors should know who is actually approving the new medicines. And I totally agree with you. We have to be much better prepared and educated if it comes to the environmental sciences, importance of eco-design, waste management, recycling. And I have to say, to your credit, if I can judge from my citizens' dialogue, so I have to say that young people are very, very often much better informed than your parents or than your grandparents, because you can get a lot of that information through the social media. But I think that to have much stronger introduction of how EU functions, what we do in environment, how we tackle the climate action, it will definitely mobilize the people more and keep them better informed. And concerning the entrepreneurship, I agree with you that in Europe, when we compare how we perform, very often, I mean, we are doing very well, but we lack that entrepreneurial spirit because it's not that much promoted, it's not that much taught at our school establishment, and therefore the courses, how to be a good entrepreneur, where to invest, and how we support you, how can we replace the traditional business angel functions which we see in Silicon Valley in Europe with our instrument. It's very important, and maybe it could be one of the ideas which we can promote through this new idea which we are going to present tomorrow to establish this program, Youth for Climate Action, where we want to
You're announcing something
that's new. I was kind of expecting that my colleague Tibor Navracic will do it, but we want to announce it tomorrow. But I think it's about you, so I think it's fair thing that you will be first to know. We want to create the new framework, which would be called Youth for Climate Action, where we want to dedicate 40 million euros for years 2018 to 2020, where we want to work on the ideas which are yours, which you are ready to work for, fight for, and to give you the opportunity under this Youth Solidarity Corps to develop the projects like you just mentioned. So we want to work with you, we want to create conditions for you, and I believe that we have a good financial means to support
so we just upgraded this exercise from just pitching ideas. Now I understand there's also a budget behind.
Now the list for the project. So I mean,
so now you can.
So Wasim is the number one candidate. He had 2 projects already on the list.
Yeah.
We
now
can
they're
go.
going to upgrade their ideas now that there's a budget. Okay, let's go for a second one. Let's go for a lady after the first introduction, please. Yes, the microphone is coming your way.
Yes, thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Tina.
Where are you from?
I'm from Croatia.
Is your family watching you right now?
I really hope so, because I shared the link.
Okay.
So hopefully they will be able to watch it afterwards.
Because my mother told all her friends, and they're probably all putting awkward comments now that are going to embarrass me.
Be sure all your moms are watching.
I hope Pablo is going to screen them. But please, what is your suggestion?
Mom, if you're watching, please comment.
Yeah, and Mom, if you're watching, you can also like on her proposal so that she
Yes.
gets more attention.
My proposal focuses more on engaging people who are not already engaged in climate action through an app shareable on Facebook or on mobile, which would help us visualize how much environment we are saving by not using certain products. Of course, everyone knows recycling is good, but recycling is only a second option. Not using a resource in the first place should be a priority. So my idea is to make an app that would be that would contain information and contain tips on the ways we can save the environment by, for example, having a book taken out of the public library instead of buying a new one in order to save paper, or showering for just a few minutes less every day. And the way that app would work, it would accumulate the score. So, for example, in the end of the year, you can see by showering a few minutes less, you saved 1 swimming pool of water, or you saved a 1-year-old tree
If we wanted to get ideas from millennials that are different from what the previous generations thought about, I think we have a typical one now.
And the idea is, of course, not to just have an app where you can share status with your friends, hey, I saved a tree. It would be more to make everyday habits more environmentally friendly and make you think before you use resources.
Thank you, Tina. Now you can keep it until the next speaker speaks.
Thank you very much for that suggestion, because I learned something from your generation. And if you really want to motivate the people, that you should enter in so-called process of gamification to make it fun. To save the energy, to save the water, to have this friendly competition within your community, with your neighbors. And the shower example, I already heard it once from former French Environment and Energy Minister Ségolène Royal, who was promoting this type of devices into the social housing. And she told me that the best expression for saving is actually the money. And she saw how the moms have been quite critical, especially the teenagers, that you've been in the shower for 45 minutes and cost me that many euros, so you can cut it down. So I think that to make it more vivid for the people to see what is your concrete impact, how can we compare it with what your neighbors do, it's a good idea. And I think we really need to talk to the young generation through the media. They understand. So gamification, good apps, and very graphic display, how much you save and help the planet. It's a very good approach.
You have your children around that age as well, so you know those people and
so
how they think from your own personal experience.
I'm that father who is permanently switching off the lights and and asking, why, the whole apartment is lit when it's not necessary. Yeah.
Okay, so I think they will be the first to download the app that was just proposed to your children. Okay, a third one, maybe you, please, in the middle, but Please don't start before you have the microphone close to your mouth.
Thank you very much. My name is Mara.
Where are you from?
I come from Romania.
Okay.
And this background helps me understand better because I study in the UK, so I have both knowledge from East and West. And I think that there is a huge difference in mentalities. And as in the UK, it's very fashionable to be eco-friendly and to recycle. In Eastern Europe, is not that much. And I believe that the most important thing is to raise awareness and spread the information. I know that the EU cannot do much about the member states' curricula, but I believe that they could organize workshops, for example, contests, video and photography contests, where the youth could actually get engaged and show the bad consequences of climate change. And lastly, for example, you know how there is the European Youth Parliament or the Model United Nations? We should have a platform that's similar that should tackle climate issues where youth could gather and share their ideas and then implement them in their communities.
Yeah, that's okay. We're live. We have these things happening. So we had a model EU
Contests for photography and videos, so that
and
we
arts.
can
If I
properly
can
reach our
summarize it,
audience.
basically bringing more
Exactly.
artistic and creativity into climate action. So it's not only papers, black and white, that the Commission knows they're producing, which are very important, but are not always very pretty to look at. So arts, we said, and we said some kind of simulation so that young people could do the work of actual politicians. I actually wonder if COP21 was done by millennials, if the result would be different or better or worse. But imagine if it would be simulations of only young people from the world. Who knows?
No,
What do you think?
I think that Mara made very good suggestions. So I think we can. The suggestion would be, I mean, maybe to organize 1 year from our meeting today, some kind of youth Paris climate summit. So we can really just see how much we advanced from tomorrow until the next year, how many of the ideas you mentioned here get funding, how many been materialized, and you will be the best judge. You know how difficult it was to use our new instrument, how we can work with them, and the ideas how young people talking about this issue, highlighting it, and use the different forms of communicating through the social media, photo exhibitions, or even some short videos, which very often are very, very convincing and can show how the world is developing, would be something with which we can really work on. And Eastern Europe, you're right. I mean, there the public opinion is evolving. As you know, I'm also from, we call it Central Eastern Europe, from Slovakia. So there was such a long, gradual catching up with the environmental policies. But now what I see is happening, especially in the field of energy efficiency, people realizing the potential of renewables. They very much like to have their autonomy, independence, to have the solar panels on the roof. So I believe that all these new technology advancement will also bring these new tendencies also to our countries.
Okay. Maybe something back from this side. You on the top, please. Just wait for the microphone to arrive at you. What's your name?
I'm Ergis Brokke. I live in Belgium.
Also, okay.
Ergis.
I
From
suppose
Albania.
you're Flemish.
Yes, I'm
It sounds
Flemish.
so. Okay. Have you shared already your this session on your Facebook wall?
Yes, I'm looking
have.
at it.
Okay, so your friends are watching.
Yeah.
Okay. I won't interrupt. I let you speak to the Vice President.
Thank you for the word, first of all. And I'm really a big fan of the climate summit for young people. Young people has to have their own climate agreement that politicians can take into account. But besides the climate summit, there has to be a young European delegation for climate. So young Europeans can negotiate with international policymakers like Jean-Claude Juncker, like Emmanuel Macron, like Angela Merkel, and give their own opinions about it. Because it's all climate and it's all future, and we have to have that political voice that can change the world for us.
Okay.
I think that's today being very creative, thanks to your ideas. I think we can try to organize something similar already at the next COP24 to see how it works. The next COP24 should be in Katowice. It would be rather important one. We are working on such a ramping up of the good ideas and the preparations. So we'll have a special summit of so-called non-state actors in California, when the cities, but also American states like California and others, and different provinces from the EU would participate to show the potential what non-state actors could do, because very often cities or the states like California are much more ambitious than the countries and the federal governments. So maybe when COP24 will take place next year, we can think about the segment for the young people, and to give you the opportunities to really present your views and to participate in this discussion. If I would be organizer, I would very much like it, but we definitely can support the ideas how to include you more in these debates.
I found it unbelievable that apparently I'm too old to be considered young, so that's why I'm the only one standing and not sitting with them. So for me,
time
it's
is
too
flying.
late.
For me, it was also difficult.
Time is flying. Yeah, that's the bad news. I didn't dare saying that to you. That
time is flying.
if you're not sitting there, it means that the studio doesn't consider us young anymore. So I'm in the same position. So if you're joining us now, we have young people here in the studio with Vice President Maroš Šefčovič. They're pitching their ideas on the role of young citizens for climate action, but you can as well. And I'd like to turn to Pablo, who's following very closely on the comments. What is happening so far? What is the world saying about what we're doing here in the studio?
Well, there's already a couple of positive reaction about the fact that we are,
Positive is good.
that the Commission, that the Commission at least is doing this, engaging with young citizens online. That is a first step. There are a lot of comments about that education is really important in that aspect, to basically get to know what the impact and what the young people can do to fight climate change, and also ride bikes in short distance instead of car. Leon from Facebook was basically asking asking for that. I don't know what you think, Vice President, about that.
Yeah, I mean the bikes are great, and I know that I have to say that I like to go on bike, to be quite honest, over the weekend, because I know where I can go, and I can go to the forest, and I can choose my path. Because Brussels is becoming more and more bike-friendly cities, but still I think that it requires a lot of courage and a lot of bravery to make it through all this rond-point chemins and rond-point Montgomery, and sometimes when I see the guys who are even having the small kids and babies on the bikes, now they are kind of navigating and slaloming through all the cars, so they are really very, very brave and committed people. But I see it also here in the garage of Berlaymont that we have less and less cars, more and more bikes. So the people find it not only, I would say, environmentally friendly, but also very practical, because if you see that how much time we lose in a traffic jam, so it's very practical. So if you really have to cover the distance up to, I don't know, 10-15 kilometers, you can do that. It's faster. You do some sports, and you can have a croissant for the breakfast without bad conscience. So I think that's a good thing to do. But our cities have to learn how to make it more bike-friendly environment, because to bike in Amsterdam, in Copenhagen, or in some of the cities, it's really a pleasure. Here, I think it still requires a lot of adrenaline here. I mean,
I have to say, I ride my bike hoping that it would also put pressure. So maybe more bikers, cities would also adapt, and maybe we shouldn't wait for the cities to put the bike lanes. Today I came completely wet,
Yeah.
but usually it works. Okay, so that was a comment that came directly from Facebook. I'm reminding you that you can still like the comments with the suggestions. We're going to try to see if we can count and quantify towards the end and tell the Vice President which suggestion got the most. And also, when our guests in the audience are presenting, feel free to use the reaction buttons so that we have an idea of what the audience is liking and supporting and what it doesn't. Who's next? Maybe you, please. Just wait for the microphone and tell us your name and where you're from.
My name is Louise and I'm from France, and I would like to jump on your idea of bike. I was thinking, I'm also I cycle bike in Brussels, and you're right, it's an experience. And I was wondering why we don't make Brussels a showcase city for sustainability. So bike would be a solution. Why we don't have the roads for bike that we have in Amsterdam, in this city? And my idea that I know you cannot control the commune of Brussels, but my idea is what the Commission, you can do. Well, you can use public procurement to create a fleet of electrified bike or hydrogen bike or vehicles in general, that you could use at the European Commission, but also for the Parliament and so on. And you could also use public procurement, to renovate your buildings, to make greenhouses here in Brussels. You will lead the way, you will set up an example in Brussels, and I wish that other organizations then could follow you.
Thank you.
Sounds good, no?
Sounds good, and something already has been done here from the side of the Commission, because I remember from my days when I was responsible for that, we've been always trying to, for example, trade the parking spaces in the Commission buildings for the support of public transport tickets, and we had such regular meetings with the Association of the Bikers with the Commission, who are very vocal and very dynamic group, who are even offering the courses that if you're afraid to bike to work, we'll show you how this could be done. And they're also telling us what's needed from the point of view that your bike is well protected, that you have a place to park it, that it's not under the risk of being stolen. So that all these things which are very important to have the showers in the building. So when you come and you have a long bike and you have to go up the Tervuren, for example, that you have the chance to get ready for work. So you're absolutely right that it needs such a comprehensive approach where the institutions, but also the city would work together to make not only the buildings but also city more bike friendly and easier for the people not to be afraid to come to work on bike.
Okay, maybe back to my left side. You with the European Youth Forum shirt doing a little bit of embedded advertisement. Tell us.
Very much appreciated.
Where are you from? What's your name?
My name is Bastian, and I'm from the European. I'm from Netherlands.
You're going to say from the European Union. That's what I.
Definitely.
Okay.
True European by heart.
Bastian.
Okay. And which country do you come from?
Netherlands.
Netherlands. Okay.
Basically, from the previous topic, my city Utrecht is opening the world's biggest bicycle station. So I'm really proud.
World biggest.
In Utrecht, yeah.
Yeah.
World biggest.
But to come back on some ideas that have been mentioned, I strongly believe that youth participation should be institutionalized. And it also should be done with youth organizations and through youth organizations to make sure that we are able to use organizations to make the maximum impact. And these organizations need to be well funded. Basically, one concrete example that my Flemish colleague has mentioned, through delegations. A lot of delegations to climate summits are having youth delegates in their national delegations. And I think something for the European Union, but also for more member states. It could be amazing if they include more young people, or if they even include young people in their official delegates.
No, I knew that in Eurovision countries vote for each other's neighbors, but I didn't know that here we would have the Flemish and the Dutch kind of grouping together on their ideas. I don't know if you spoke in the waiting room and kind of coordinated your thoughts, but let's see if it works on the vice president.
No, it definitely works for me, because I think that being part of something, it's the best way how we can mobilize the positive approach and positive thoughts. And therefore, I think that we really would have to look very seriously what can we do to have the participation of the youth generation in our COP meetings, because there is a lot of different segments. I was participating in segments talking to the cities, and we've been talking to the regions. So I think that it should be really very natural evolution that we would talk to the young people, and at the same time to have maybe such a regular assessment how our programs for the young generations are working. We are very happy about Erasmus, that we had 9 million young people having the chance to study abroad or work abroad. I am hearing very impressive numbers about Erasmus new generation and that enthusiasm for these exchanges. But at the same time, I think it would be good to see how other programs are working for you, if they're good, if they shouldn't be adjusted to these new priorities. And therefore, it would be, I think, very good to talk to you in a year time what you think about the Youth for Climate Action. Was it practical? Was it user-friendly? Was it still too complicated, administratively difficult for you to apply and work with that support, and maybe have this type of the discussion, and hopefully we can retain the names of participating and have a debate in a year time if it worked or not.
I think we already have a very good harvest. We're not done yet, but I see that you're already taking a lot of notes.
Yes, I mean.
So I hope that tomorrow in Paris they will have enough time to listen to everything that is happening here today.
We'll see how much time the President Macron will give me. I mean,
but after this, I think he will have to extend your time. Maybe you, the lady in the middle, once you have your microphone, what's your name?
Leia Achampong from the UK.
We can hear that in your accent.
Lovely.
From the UK.
When speaking to my friends, I chose to share this with my friends ahead of this this wonderful session here. And when speaking with them, I found that a lot of us we're very forward looking, and we're aware of what we want the world to look like in the future. And something that's really simple for my friends and I is that we feel lucky that we're able to look outside of our windows or go traveling and see the beautiful landscape that we have here in Europe, the scenery, the views, the countryside. And this is something that for us, if those who have the ability to act are not trying to tackle climate change as effectively as we would hope they are, then that's something that our generation and future generations are going to lose. We're not going to be able to be inspired and wondered by the beauty of the countryside anymore. So for us, something that's really crucial is that those who have the authority, those who have the ability, and that means cities and investors and businesses as well as governments, they need to be setting effective policies both at the institutional level, so the EU level, but also internal policies. So it was very inspiring to see that at COP23 in Bonn, 25 mayors of cities, including European cities, they committed to decarbonisation pathways by 2050.
Let me just ask you, how can these decision makers engage with young people, which is more our focus here, because the Vice President, and I'm sure we can spend hours talking about what we're doing with cities and all the different policy levels, but can you think of what they can do to bring young people on board? And by saying young, I think we can roughly limit it by 30 years old. What do you think we can do with them?
I would say you could even limit it at 40 years old.
Oh, thank you. Now I'm young. So. I appreciate that.
But just to say, when speaking with my friends, something that's really crucial for us is engagement. So things like videos and memes and things that are more visual. It's very useful to have all of these policy papers, but it's also more useful to see them being brought to life in a video or in a documentary. Something that's interesting for us is taking part in a documentary when in the UK we have this thing called the climate energy revolution, where NGOs travelled around the UK speaking to different constituencies but also young people. That was motivating, and it brought people into the conversation, and it showed young people what the opportunities associated with tackling climate change are and would be. And just one thing to come back to the conversation related to youth delegations, I think it's very good to hear that you are open towards that, and there is an existing youth delegation called the Conference of the Youth towards all of the COPs. So we had COI 13 at COP23 this year. I think it would be very useful if you could bring in the existing structure of COI towards this youth delegation. I'll leave it there, but thank you.
I personally really like what you said about arts that was mentioned here before in documentaries. And if I remember correctly, you also opened a few premieres of documentaries about sustainability and climate change in the past. But I think you were talking more about producing them.
Producing them and ensuring that young people are reflected within the documentaries as well, and going into local communities and seeing what people are doing. There's so many interesting things.
You would be surprised to learn that when I, for the first time, met Arnold Schwarzenegger in Bonn, that half of the time he was talking with a huge passion about the videos, about the engaging YouTubes, about measuring that your generation prefers to watch the YouTubes to belong 2 minutes 14 seconds, according to the scientific assessment.
This is what you spoke about with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, that you would like to have a split screens at the beginning, problem and the solution. And because you like to watch your YouTubes in the tram or in the bus, so there should be subtitles. And then it should be very crispy, very snappy, to get very, very quickly to the point. And this is something what we have to learn from you. What is the dynamic? What is the taste? What should be the perspective? Because this is how we can really engage the young audience. And coming back to the important role your generation will play. I mean, I think that my generation, to our credit, we got it that there is a problem, and it was a long struggle. I mean, I think today we can say that now we have the majority opinion that we have a problem with the climate change. We have to tackle it, and we just have to save the planet. You still know that there is a lot of people, even in such a big country like the United States, who are still denying that something like this is happening, despite of all the hurricanes, tornado, floods, fires, and you name it. So I think that in our case, we got it, we realized it, we could have scientifically proven that we have a problem. But in your case, as the young generation always wants to change the world, I think in your case, the priority would be to save the planet. And that would be, I think, the priority for your generation. What we could do would be to lay out the groundwork, to set in motion new laws, new processes, to try to bring the adequate finances to support a good project. But this conscious building, this activism on the ground, this discussion with your peers and with your parents, how to behave responsibly, I think that would be something which would be very much challenge for your generation, because I think you will feel if you are doing good job or bad job by your daily lives, what would be the temperature in our cities, what would be the situation in Africa, what would be the rate or the frequency of hurricanes in Caribbean or cyclones in East Asia. I mean, nature will be very precise, telling us, okay, you are doing well, you are not doing enough, or you really have a big problem. And that would be your generation, which would really feel it very, very concretely.
And I think we all agree that the narrative and the way of conveying it in a vivid and artistic way is very important. I just learned that the Terminator is actually a geek. So for me, it kind of ruined now his reputation.
Hopefully he'll come tomorrow as well, so we'll see.
I think Leonardo DiCaprio is also coming. So I think there's quite a few people in the room who can discuss about arts and filmmaking and how to convey that story.
It's really amazing. And I'm, of course, very happy about that climate action is actually bringing the personalities like DiCaprio, Arnold Schwarzenegger, or Bill Gates, or Jeff Bezos, and all these, I would say, very important personalities, and who became the ambassadors for responsible behavior. You see more and more companies, from super high-tech companies from Silicon Valley down to IKEAs in Europe, who are working very hard on making sure that they have this good green reputation if it comes to their consumers. And I think that will be stronger and stronger into the future. And if, of course, the consumers and the young generation will push for it, the companies would realize it's the only way to go.
Okay, so far we're getting a lot of comments, a lot of traffic. So thank you. I'm going to turn to a gentleman here in the middle. Not putting pressure, but the traffic is high. So the rating of my show is now with your question. So please, make it go up.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Ignacio.
Ignacio.
Yes.
Sounds Spanish.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, I'm coming from Argentina, but today I'm supposed to represent Spain. So.
Okay. You didn't say that. I didn't hear that. No, but you are Spanish.
But I'm Spanish.
Okay.
Yes.
Good.
So I want to take over from the last two comments, because there was an interesting proposal there about institutionalizing the commitments of youth organizations, and it is true that when we talk about climate change, when we talk about the Paris Agreement, we are mainly looking at the action of the national government. And we want to achieve targets, but even if we achieve all the national targets of all the EU member states over the world, we will have a scenario in which the rise of temperature will be of 3 degrees. That will, of course, have catastrophic consequences, not only for the environment, and will not meet the Paris Agreement. So we need to institutionalize these commitments that also other stakeholders can do, not only youth organizations, but also businesses, other type of civil society organizations, trade unions. But at the same time, we see that they are facing a lot of obstacles. We have just heard a couple of weeks ago how Iberdrola, the main energy supplier in Spain, wanted to shut down 2 coal power plants, and the Spanish Energy Minister has prohibited it. So it's quite an attitude that goes totally against the Paris Agreement. So we
but
can
let me
see.
just refocus you again on the discussion on young people, because we can take it in many different directions, and climate action, like I said, we can spend hours and hours.
Yes.
So you speak on behalf of young people. You seem young. I don't know how old you are, and it's very good. But let's try to still.
I hope I am. No, but my suggestion is that we need to avoid that type of action happenings. And I think that the best idea is to create this framework inside the European Union, because a framework that we still don't have, in which youth organizations, businesses, other type of civil society organizations can make commitments, and the European Union and all its member states also contribute to them to achieve those commitments, either providing finance or or at least creating the framework. That is something that we don't have in the European Union, and it's also the best way to engage everyone in the society, because the Paris Agreement implies a radical change that has to include all social and economic actors.
Understood. If you're okay, I'll take maybe another one or two, and then so that we can, I'd like to make as many people here as possible speak. Oof. You, please, here, just wait for the microphone to come at you. What's your name?
Altea. I'm Italian.
Italian.
Altea.
Altea.
Yes, it's Greek, but I'm Italian.
Altea.
Regarding all the discussion, we saw that there are many interesting ideas, and I also received some comments, so I would like to put the things very quickly. Generations.
Keep the microphone close to your mouth, please.
Your generations are very much concerned with climate change, and but I really believe that there is also a lack of commitment at the local level, in the sense that local governments sometimes are perceived as not being very paying much attention on the European young generation needs. So what we could do would be to create really a network that would go across Europe and also beyond, but also considering the local governments. So why not to use existing networks like the Covenant of Mayors in order to expand this outreach to young generations and give them the opportunity to crowdsource ideas and initiatives. We all heard many interesting initiatives today in this room, but also, for instance, Christine Byrne wrote about involvement in circular economy.
This is happening now on your Facebook.
Yes, and awareness about the food chain as well. So if we have these ideas in one part of Europe and there is a network, they can feel free to share these ideas about and scale them up. It could have an impact also in local communities, but also at the European level.
Okay, excellent. Local scale. Let me take a third one and then let the Vice President say what he thinks about it. Yeah, let's turn to your neighbor. What's your name?
So I'm Sabrina from Belgium.
Yeah.
So thank you for your comments. And actually, I think the main issue is, well, we have to bring closer people, bring them closer to each other, bring people closer to the raw materials to understand what's behind every device here, for example. And how to do that, I think, as it has been already said, social media is a great tool and we cannot ignore it. For example, I have two quick examples. So a few weeks ago, I saw a video about, so it's like an educator on YouTube, it's not exactly about climate change. It's about, so it's a game, actually. You are an European citizen and your boyfriend or girlfriend, whatever, is emigrating and tries to come to Europe. So what do you have to do? You have to talk to her or him by messages. So you text him or her, and your decisions truly have an impact on the endings. There are many endings of this game, and so I think this kind of game already exists also for climate change and so on, and that this can show how much we can have an impact, how much a small decision, a very young people, not people like 20-year-old, but even youngest, how that decision can impact
We're talking about
the climate
gamification.
change. So it was in line with gamification, but in even more playful way. So
okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes, maybe in the back. Let's take the three of you one after the other, from left to right of mine. Okay, that's my right, but that's okay. Hi there.
Sorry.
What's your name?
I'm Jan. I'm from Germany, but I've lived most of my life in Belgium, actually.
Okay.
And so I really like the ideas that were told here. I think they're really interesting, and especially the one of institutionalizing the youth. Sorry, and because it really brings people to get to the problem that they want to solve. And one thing, I really like what was done here. I think it's a really nice opportunity
nice to hear.
Bring people
Finally
together.
said it.
And I just want to also just say the fact that it is important to me that youth is put into this discussion, because one thing is to solve a problem. This problem, and this is special for the environment, it's a problem that can only be solved now. It cannot be solved later. So I think it's important that we do it now and that we do it right. So,
okay, I suggest we do a very brief round of those who still want to pitch in. You can still put your comments afterwards, and we will still try to make all those best ideas surface. But as you saw, we had a little glitch, so now we're trying to make the best out of it. So please.
Hello, my name is Dominic. Hi, Dan.
Dominic.
I'm from Slovakia and just want to continue with the debate that we have going on now on institutionalizing the power and the influence of the youth. I actually believe, why shouldn't the youth have a veto right when it comes to the energy transition plans of the member states?
Now, not the vice president.
Very often, unfortunately, when it comes to discussion of how should we transition towards a sustainable future up until 2030, 2050, it becomes part of a political discussion, left wing, right wing, and so on. But it is the youth that is the most interested in how are we going to transition by the year 2050. And I know the European Commission is, for example, asking the member states to put forward their plans of how are they going to deliver on this from each member state next year. So what are the means for us to engage in this process?
Okay.
Are we going to be consulted?
Yeah. Okay, interesting approach. Your neighbor, hi.
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
My name is Robin. I come from France. So excuse me for my English. It's not really good.
Good to me.
But I just want to say something that maybe it's important to know about global warming. Is that global warming comes from the carbon pollution, and a lot of studies shows us that a lot of carbon emission come from the industry, and not from a lot of the citizens' way of life, But in a way, to change meaning the fact that industry change our weather and have an impact on global warming, we have to change conscious of consumers, and we are the consumer of tomorrow. So to speak about the young people, I think that the European Union can create something just like a label, because we are allowed to create label on bio or things like that. It already exists here, but maybe if European Commission can have a discussion about the products in European markets that are consumed by people and just put a mark about 1 to 5 on a lot of products for all or latex or alimentation or foods, for example.
More labeling on products.
Yeah, and not only put a label, but to learn to young people in school, in primary school, in secondary school, and a lot of education.
Has been mentioned here several times.
Yeah, because it could be difficult to understand the logo.
We are really nearing the end. I'm going to turn back to Pablo and ask you. I saw one thing that caught my mind in the chat. There was Gregory Merrily who was asking about this giraffe.
Yeah, indeed.
So, and actually two. There's one over there. So I can tell you it's made out of recycled flip-flops. So it's a sustainability giraffe, and that's how it got its place here. Not asking questions or making pitches, just behaving.
Nothing to do with climate change then, that the giraffe is in the middle of the studio?
Sustainability kind of has to do with climate change. But tell me.
Yeah, there has been a lot of reaction towards the education aspect of it. So people seem to agree with that. The people online, on Facebook, that education is of huge importance for this climate change fight. And of course, this delegation of young people, And there has been also, being honest, a lot of reaction on the fact that there is young people are already, engaging themselves in the fight against climate action. And the thing that we, as the European Commission, that we have to do is to listen to them. So basically, this kind of exercises seems as a first step to start listening to the young
music
people.
To my ears. Let's hope next time electricity and bad weather don't come in our way. I think we will have to wrap it up. The conversation can continue after. If you didn't get to speak, I apologize, but you can still put your comments, and we will definitely still go over them, and we can still engage and continue. So let me thank you, those who came all the way to the studio and to participate. Let me thank you for watching and participating. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. And if you think this kind of dialogues are important, it's still not too late to click on the share button. Take care and goodbye from us in Brussels.